Player ratings then, Everton 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2 at Goodison Park. Quite a frustrating result in the end. Does feel like 2 points dropped, to be fair, considering the chances that Everton had, as well as the two defensive errors which, led to Tottenham Hotspur's goals and were just absolutely shocking defensive errors, weren't they? A better performance by Everton. If we want to take positives out of it, it was a better performance by Everton, but still, not good enough to put to bed a Tottenham team who really were there for the taking tonight. No disrespect to Tottenham, but they really were there for the taking. Anyway, let's get straight in to the player ratings. Don't forget to check out the instant match reaction if you haven't already after this video. We'll start off with Jordan Pickford. Come back in, of course, after returning from injury earlier this week. Robin Olsen was replaced. Thought Robin Olsen had a decent game against Brighton, but Jordan stepped back in as he was fit. I thought he had an alright game. I've given him a 7.5, 7.5 today for Jordan. Don't think he could have done much for either goal, to be honest. I think both goals he wouldn't have expected. He would have expected the centre-half to have, cleared the ball and made, let's be honest, a comfortable defensive clearance rather than absolutely cocking it up and letting Harry Kane, who is arguably the most clinical striker in the Premier League, giving him an opportunity, 6 yards out from goal. Like I said, both goals are fired at him from very, very close distance at some speed, and I don't really think he could do much about them. He didn't really have an awful lot to do in the entire game, granted, and that I think adds to the entire frustration of this one, is that other than the two goals, which were silly defensive mistakes, Tottenham didn't have many opportunities whatsoever. There was a couple of times when Jordan was called upon to come and collect the ball or clear the ball, or used his feet well at times to to distribute it, and I just thought he had a decent game. I don't think he particularly done anything wrong. Look, there'll probably be people that pick out at him and say he should have done better for this goal or for the second goal or whatever, but I just thought he was alright today. Didn't really do much wrong, wasn't a fault for either goal, but again, didn't really have an awful lot to do other than that either. So I've given him a 7.5. Luca Dean, I've given him a 7.5 as well. Better performance by Luca Dean this week than what we've seen recently, I feel. Was getting forward on a lot more occasions, throwing the ball into the box. There was one where Hammers played it over to him brilliantly and he volleyed it back into the box, which was an exceptional ball back in, and it was just unfortunate that I just think Richarlison was a little bit too in front of it, and Gylfi Sigurdsson couldn't get on the end of it. But thought he looked a lot more menacing going forward. He was trying to create, he was trying to throw balls into the box. Defensively, done okay as well. Covered himself a couple of times, made a couple of nice challenges as well to stop Tottenham Hotspur from getting in behind. And again, just thought he had a decent, solid game. That's what you get from Luca Dean. You very rarely get a poor performance. You'll always get a 7, 8 out of 10. Some weeks you'll get a 10 out of 10. Some weeks the odd week you might get a 5 or a 6 out of 10. But most weeks you'll get a 7, 7.5 out of 10, because he just is a genuinely solid player. And yeah, thought he had a decent game today, so I'm giving him a 7.5. Here's where it gets a bit juicy. On to the centre-backs. Michael Keane, I'm giving him a 3 today. I'm not defending Michael Keane when I say this, but I have said it numerous times on this channel before. He cannot play in a 3-at-the-back formation. I don't care who wants to come and argue that point. Michael Keane simply isn't comfortable enough playing in a 3-at-the-back. He just gets confused about his position. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know where he needs to be, and that was quite evidently on show today. Obviously, both Tottenham goals are Michael Keane's mistake. First one is shocking, to be fair, absolutely shocking. Ball comes in, and okay, the ball should never have been allowed to come in. We should have stopped that ball from coming into the box. But still, look, it's a shocking, it's a shocking attempt to head it. He jumps up, it just clears his head. Mason Allgate's practically lying on the floor, and Harry Kane gets it's a decent finish, but let's be honest, it's an easy finish for him. And then the second one again, just woeful. Another ball comes into the box and you just think, yeah, clear that, get that headed out. Michael Keane heads it onto the back of Mason Allgate because they're practically standing together, and again it falls to Harry Kane who smashes it into the back of the net. I like Michael Keane, I do. I think he's a good centre half, and I think he's had a decent season this season. Certainly at the start of the season, I think he was absolutely excellent. There was no doubting that he was, arguably Everton's best centre-half. I say there's no doubting that he was arguably, but I think for me, he was Everton's best centre-half in those first 2 or 3 months of the season. But at the moment, given Carlo Ancelotti's come out and spoke about the fact that we're needing to play a 3-at-the-back at the moment because the offensive positives that formation brings in terms of the wing backs and stuff, I just don't think Michael Keane can play a 3-at-the-back whatsoever. Too dreadful mistakes by him today. His overall game, other than that, was okay. But ultimately, when you're needing a win and when you're coming up against the team that you really are fighting with for European football, and you make 2 mistakes like that, you can't get any higher than a 3 for me. So he's getting a 3. Mason Holgate's getting a 4. I don't think he was as bad for the goals, but still ultimately was absolutely everywhere. The communication between Mason and Michael Keane today was shocking. I don't think either of them called for any of the balls. Like I said, the first one, Mason himself, although he probably thinks Michael Keane's going to deal with it, and that's fair enough, he's still, for me, should be on his toes as to think, right, okay, if Michael Keane doesn't deal with it, I'm going to stay on Harry Kane and I'm going to make sure he doesn't have an easy tap in, and he doesn't. He's practically, I think, on the floor when that ball falls to Harry Kane. And the second one, again, maybe a little bit harsh to blame him for, because Michael Keane heads it onto him, but he still doesn't really know where he is. I don't think Mason Holgate, he's still sort of is standing in no man's land, and Keane heads it onto the back of him and it ends up, falling to Harry Kane again. Other than that, overall play, not too bad, but again, played a part in 2 of the 2 mistakes that led to Tottenham's 2 goals. And ultimately, I feel like Mason's a little bit like Michael Keane, to be honest with you. Just doesn't do well in a 5 at the back formation whatsoever. Just doesn't look comfortable, doesn't look assured whatsoever, doesn't look confident. And yeah, I just think he should have done an awful lot better today. Certainly with the first one. The second one, I understand, listen, if you're standing there and a ball goes over your head and your teammate, heads the ball into your back and then it falls to an opposition player, you can't do much about that. But the first one, I think he should be on his toes for, to be honest with you. He's, again, although it's Michael Keane is at fault for it, Mason Holgate is practically nowhere to be seen when Harry Kane's standing on his own. Ben Godfrey then, on to Ben Godfrey. I've given him an 8 today. Again, Ben Godfrey is starting to become that player, a little bit like Luca Dean, Mr. Consistent, really. Every week you're giving him a 7 or an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Very really, even when we perform really poorly defensively and we leak goals and, games like today where there's defensive mistakes on show, it's never really Ben Godfrey who's involved in them whatsoever. He always seems to be that defender that you say, right, defensively we were dreadful today, except Ben Godfrey, who had a really good game. And again today I thought he was really, really solid. Got forward on a couple of occasions, burst forward with that, pace that he has. If I was to have one critic of him today, or one bit of criticism, it'd be that I think he should do better when Hammers plays that ball into the box or from the free kick towards the back end of the first half. I think he should do a lot better to, when it falls to him, he just sort of heads it and lets it hit his head really, and it goes over the bar. I think he should do a lot better to try and guide that towards goal. But other than that, defensively, he didn't put a foot wrong. He made a couple of really big challenges, and again, he brought the ball forward. He wasn't really, again, put under much pressure defensively, but I just thought he had a really, really solid game. And again, said it just then, for me, Ben Godfrey is a 7, 8 out of 10 every single week now. And, I said with Luca Dean, very rarely you might get the odd 5 or 6 out of 10. You don't even get that with Ben Godfrey. He's just constantly absolutely brilliant. And I think he was very, very good again tonight. Allan then. I thought Allan was exceptional, absolutely exceptional. I've given him an 8 out of 10 for Allan today. I thought, I spoke on Twitter during the game about James Rodriguez being back to his 100% and being back to his world-class self that we all know and love. But I thought Allan today was very much the same. I think he was back to 100%. I think he was everywhere. He was picking the ball up in that midfield. He was bringing it forward. His passing was very, very good. He was controlling it. He was getting the ball off the Tottenham players comfortably. I just thought it was the best Allan performance we've seen in a long time. It really was. And again, he's not a fault for either of the goals. They should have been comfortably dealt with, so it's not like you can say the ball would bypass through the midfield far too easily. I just thought Allan had a really, really solid game, and I think he deserves, like I said, a lot of praise today, because he come back from that big injury, and I think he was probably thrown in a little bit too quickly, and he maybe didn't have enough time to get back to match fitness and get to that level that we know he can be at. And there was a lot of criticism of Allan in recent weeks to state that he hasn't been as good as he was prior to his injury, whereas I think today he looked really, really solid, and he looked like that player that we brought in the summer, and he showed today that when he's at 100%, he's a big asset to this team. So Allan's getting an 8. Tom Davis then, I've given him a 7. I thought Tom had again a decent game, made one absolutely unbelievable challenge to stop a Tottenham Hotspur attack, which was a fantastic sliding tackle. Got himself involved, in the first sort of opening 15-20 minutes as well. Kept the ball well, brought it out, passed it. I don't know whether I tweeted out that I thought Tom Davies had a decent half, and I think I was the only one that seemed to agree with it. I was having people tweeting back saying, oh, it must just be you're his biggest fan. Was it just me that thought Tom Davies had a decent game today, didn't particularly do anything wrong whatsoever? You know, is he that midfield presence and power and you know, athleticism that Adelaide Corey is? No, of course he's not, but I thought he had a decent game today, Tom. I don't really think he played a bad pass. Don't really think he was a fault for either of the goals. Thought he looked menacing in midfield. He was bringing the ball up. He was getting it to James. James was in the right areas today. I thought James had a really good game, and he was in the right areas because Davis and Allan were allowing him to stay in those areas as well as Gylfi Sigurdsson, but we'll move on to those two in a moment. But yeah, I thought Tom Davies had a really decent game, to be honest with you. I don't think he done much wrong whatsoever, so he's getting a 7. On to James then, giving him an 8.5, just tipped by Gylfi Sigurdsson for man of the match, and look, Gylfi obviously got the 2 goals, and the second one is absolutely excellent, but James Rodriguez showed today that when James Rodriguez is 100% fit, James Rodriguez is a world-class footballer, just everywhere, wanting the ball, picking it up, getting forward, creating 2 or 3 unbelievable passes into, you know, I think the first one was to Richarlison in the first half, and Richarlison should have done better. He slid one in to Josh King as well, and Josh King hits it at the goalkeeper. It's harder to hit at the goalkeeper, but he manages to do it. Yeah, there was just 2 or 3, 4 really, really clever passes by James Rodriguez that deserved to end in goals and deserved to be assists. Ultimately, they weren't in the end, but again, he missed the chance himself in the first half, which you would have thought he'd have done better with, but it was a little bit of a snapshot, and Lloris was in the right place at the right time. It was a good reaction save, but I thought he was everywhere tonight, James. You know, unfortunate to not get a goal. You know, I don't know whether he gets the assist for the penalty, to be honest. I'm not too sure, but certainly unfortunate to not get a goal. And look, won us the penalty. You know, whether you want to say it's a penalty or not, whether you agree with it or not, certainly the top 6 teams, they get them every single week. The amount of penalties I've watched Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham get in that same vein is ridiculous. So it's about time Everton got a penalty like that. And I've just watched it back on the replay then, by the way. It's a blatant penalty. It's a blatant penalty. He clips his foot as he's ready to take the shot, and thus making James Rodriguez sort of kick the floor rather than the ball, and therefore it's a penalty. You can moan about it all you like, but it's a penalty. And yeah, like I said, I thought James was everywhere today, and most importantly, he was picking the ball up in the right areas. He was still coming deep at times to pick the ball up, which was a little bit frustrating, but he wasn't the only player who looked like he wanted to win the game today. Davis looked like he wanted to win. Godfrey looked like he wanted to win it. Allan, Sigurdsson, you know, even Richarlison, whose effort was there, they all looked like they wanted to push on and win this game of football. The thing I was most impressed with was Everton's press today. We actually got at Tottenham. We forced them into, you know, errors. We forced them into passing the ball out of play or giving it the ball back to us through you know, errors in possession, instead of sitting back and sort of going, yeah, we can't really be bothered today. And James being the only player who was actively pushing to win the game, everybody seemed to be doing that, and that meant that James could show his quality, and I think he was really good today. On to Gylfi Sigurdsson, then I've given him a 9. You know, probably unlucky not to get a 9.5 or a 10, and he probably would have got a 10 if we'd have won the game. But yeah, I thought Gylfi, even taking away his 2 goals for the moment, I thought he had a really, really solid game, to be honest with you. I really did. I thought he was everywhere. He was picking the ball up in the right areas. His passing was really good. He didn't have to do as much of that defensive work because you had Allan and Tom Davies doing it. He was more of that link play between those two and James Rodriguez, and he done that really well. Obviously, he stepped up for the penalty, and look, whether you like Gylfi Sigurdsson or not, one thing you have to, you know, talk about is his consistency from the penalty spot. Nearly every time he steps up when Everton get a penalty, he slots it into the back of the net. And like I said, we can talk about his poor performances and whatever you want to talk about, but you cannot criticise that lad from however many yards out, 12 yards out is it, on that penalty spot, because every time he steps up, he's as cool as you like, and he slots it into the back of the net. He did it to get us back into the game, and his second goal is just exquisite. By the way, we'll talk about Seamus Coleman when we get onto the substitutes, but his second goal is just absolutely exquisite. Great ball in by Seamus Coleman. Nice play by Richarlison before that, to be fair, to play it to Seamus. Unbelievable ball in by Seamus Coleman, and like I said, Gylfi just opens his body perfectly, and it's an unbelievably weighted finish. It really, really is. It's, put it this way, if it was James, or Richarlison or Dom, we'd all be sitting here screaming and singing the praises. So we have to do it for Gylfi. It's a great finish, and I actually thought that was Gylfi Sigurdsson's best performance in an Everton shirt for a long time. He loves a game against Tottenham, doesn't he? He always loves to turn up against Tottenham. But yeah, I thought he was brilliant today. 2 goals, was involved as well, and ultimately the second is an absolutely exceptional finish, so he's getting a 9. Richie, I've given Richarlison a 7 today. Again, did miss, that chance at the end of the game, which, listen, you can't miss those. You can't miss those chances as a striker, as the lone striker up front. And I get that Richarlison, had a bit of a difficult time today because he was up on his own for large part of the game, and it's difficult for any player who's sort of playing up front on their own, and they've got to do all of the running round and picking the ball up and trying to create chances for themselves. But when the ball falls to you 7, 8, 10 yards out, and all you have to do is really keep it on the floor and it's going in the back of the net and you've won the game, you simply have to do better. Having said that, I actually think Richarlison had a better game than you might think. You might be sitting there thinking a 7 for Richarlison, you just like him too much, Cam. A lot of people were, sort of disagreeing on Twitter, shall we say, and maybe saying he didn't have as great as the games. Look, I didn't have as great as the games, but I thought his effort was there. He ran round, he had a pivotal part to play in the second goal. He done a lovely 1-2 with Seamus Coleman. He was picking the ball up on a number of occasions. He got into some decent areas. He played it off. I just thought he had a decent game today. He wasn't brilliant by any stretch of the imagination, and unfortunately for Richarlison, that game will be remembered for him as that chance missed at the end of the game, which, look, he should be doing better. There's no excuse for it. He absolutely should be. But overall play, other than not scoring and not, assisting, I don't think he was awful. I really don't. Maybe that's just me being kind, but I don't think he was awful. So he's getting a 7. And then Alex Iwobi, I almost forgot about Alex Iwobi when I was doing the ratings, to be honest. I counted the number of players and I thought I'm missing one here. And then it was Alex Iwobi. Look, I've given him a 4. Started at right wing back, which isn't his natural position. To be honest, I don't know what his natural position is at the moment. I'd love to sit down with Alex and just say, what is your natural position? Because I really don't understand. But yeah, poor performance by Alex Iwobi today. Didn't get involved much whatsoever. Had a couple of chances to take the ball forward into Tottenham's half, and he was messing around with it on the halfway line, and he gave it a ball away in possession a couple of times and invited pressure on unnecessarily. There was just not much from him whatsoever. Nothing much going forward, and product wise was poor again. Defensively, he doesn't offer much. I just think he was a bit absent, to be honest. Again, a couple of nice little bits of skills to get him out of dangerous situations, but all of nothing really. So Alex Iwobi is getting a 4. Again, not a good performance whatsoever by him. Onto the substitute bench then. Seamus Coleman, 7.5. Again, I said it in the instant match reaction. Seamus was fantastic against Brighton, my man of the match. Fantastic against Crystal Palace, and today he's come off the bench, and ultimately he's had the impact, which is giving us the second goal. Don't get me wrong, it's an unbelievable finish by Gylfi Sigurdsson, but it's an absolutely exquisite ball in by Seamus Coleman. And when I say exquisite, I mean that with every single syllable. I don't even use posh words, but that's the only way to describe that pass. It was an exquisite pass into the box. Again, like I said, instant impact from Seamus Coleman. Didn't really have to do much defensively for the rest of the game, but he was getting in the face of Tottenham players as well. That's what you've sort of seen from Seamus recently, is he's actually, you can see that he, when he's not happy with the decision, he'll get in the face, he'll argue the point, he'll say, no, I'm not happy with that, that should have been a foul, that should have been this. The ball into the box was unbelievable, so he's getting a 7.5. Arguably should get a bit higher, but again, he only come off the bench, didn't he? If he'd started, he'd have gone a lot higher. And then Josh King, I've given him a 5. Look, for me, Josh King, again, hasn't had a lot of opportunities in an Everton shirt, and I get his frustration, and I understand, I've said it before, I get that Josh King coming on with 5 or 10 minutes to go at the end of games isn't helping him whatsoever. But when you slid in by James Rodriguez and you have a chance to win the game and you fire it straight into the goalkeeper from 5 or 10 yards out, we're sort of sitting there shaking our head going, maybe this is why Josh King isn't getting much of an opportunity. He had to be scoring that, and I've marked him down solely on that, by the way. He simply has to be. We can if we want to talk about Richarlison needing to be better, Josh King's a striker, he's a forward, he's a goal scorer. He come in to be a goal scorer in this team. He has to simply do better in those situations. Anyway, look, they're the play ratings. Let me know your thoughts on them in the comment section down below. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like. Don't forget to leave like I said, your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you've enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the Football News 365 app as well. Really do appreciate that. Keeps you up to date with all your latest Everton news and scores. Don't forget to check out the instant match reaction for a bit more of an, elongated opinion of mine on the game in itself. But anyway, big thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this one, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.